Elon, you're crazy, but you're cool.
The key though, apparently with the cold plunge, you have to do it prior to working out.
I gave my dad my Apple Watch, and the Apple Watch actually is what detected his AFib. With these organic and sort of more holistic approaches like tallow balm, we don't have to worry about there being excessive other chemicals and other stuff. A lot of these consumer trends, chemical different creams and liquids, actually causes more reaction.
Hyperbaric chambers, I think, is an up and coming trend. And there was just something in the news recently, I believe it was like a 5-year-old child that died in it.
Ooh,
so I think
terrible.
people have taken it too far.
The biggest thing is I suck at selling, right? A lot of providers are like, I hate selling. I don't like asking for money. You don't need to. Just be an educator. Tell the story.
It's not the treatment that makes me want to buy, it's the transformation. What is my end result? What is my dream outcome?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Sam Patel. Super excited for the Wellness and Aesthetic podcast to continue having amazing conversations so we can stay ahead of the latest trends and make sure that we're not just staying ahead of the trends, but putting these into action so that way our patients are always advancing in their treatments with you, but also your clinics are advancing along the way. So let's advance today's conversation. And I have familiar faces with us today. We have Alicia and Mitch, and super excited. You guys doing all right? How you been? Good?
Good. It's good to be back again on another podcast.
Well, we're going to have some amazing conversations today, and I'm looking forward to it. We're going to talk about, this concept. I'm going to actually bring out my phone because there's a lot of topics here. And it's about this whole trends. We're talking about trends. We talk about trends on the podcast all the time, and wellness trends more particularly. Things like stimulating the vagus nerve to ease stress, or how about cold plunging to curb anxiety, or hyperbaric oxygen chambers for brain function, high protein diets and what they do. And I can keep going. The list is immersive here. But trends. What are some of the trends that you guys are seeing? I have a whole list of 8 of them that I would love to talk about. We're not going to go through all of them, but what are your thoughts about these different trends in general? Not particularly anything, but just trends. There's so many of them. Mitch, what are you thinking?
Well, usually behind a trend, someone's trying to sell you something. So.
Right. Trends are all marketing is basically what this is, right? Trends is a way to get you in the door.
Good marketing sparks the interest
true.
of the consumer.
Some seem good, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the trends that you think that are advantageous? I want to see if it's on this list.
It's not on the list.
Oh, okay.
But there's actually a trend that my wife and I love.
Okay.
Tallow balm.
I've heard this.
Tallow balm.
Yeah.
It's great. We've been using it for like a couple years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you use it?
Well, I had eczema on my hand, and then you just do the honey tallow balm, put it on. It's great.
Yeah. I think like with these organic and sort of more holistic approaches like tallow balm, we don't have to worry about there being excessive other chemicals and other stuff, right? It's natural. It's kind of what our ancestors used for years. And a lot of these consumer trends of, chemical different creams and liquids, and we apply it actually causes more reaction, right?
Yeah.
And so I like that one. Alicia, anything?
I've been hearing a lot more about cold plunges, and
Yeah, it's on the list. Cold plunges is on here.
I'm not surprised. And I've been seeing the more places that I go and the more stores that I'm shopping, there's actually these like pop-up cold plunges everywhere, from $50 cold plunges that pop up at your house to like thousands and thousands of dollars to have like a permanent one at your house. I've been seeing a lot more of that trending.
Yeah. Have you done a cold plunge yourself?
I have not. I've taken a cold bath before, not on purpose.
I've done a
just
cold
laid in it
plunge,
too long,
and
but
honestly, I don't think it curbed my anxiety. I think it created anxiety because I had anxiety jumping into that cold plunge pool and then jumping into like a sauna after, which kind of opened up the pores. And I understand it. It helps kind of give that very big bolus of blood flow. But I had a lot of anxiety going into the cold plunge. I'm not sure if it curbs anxiety. Your thoughts? Have you done it?
I love cold plunges.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been out in the snow way too much.
No, I think they're awesome. I don't have a cold plunge.
Would you get one?
Yeah, I've actually been looking on Facebook.
Oh, look at that.
Marketplace, so.
Okay.
I'm a big Facebook Marketplace. I'm always looking for the deals.
Yeah. Well, cold plunge, you might find some. How about this one, guys? There's all these really big wellness clubs, these tricked out wellness clubs that have everything you can think of: saunas, weightlifting, personal trainers, smoothie bars. And we're talking like the works. It's like the Equinoxes of the world. And you pay obscene amount of money to go to these wellness clubs. What are your thoughts there?
I think it's great to have it all in one place. I actually think it was Lifetime Fitness. Don't quote me, but I think Lifetime Fitness is converting over to have a whole bunch of wellness lounges now incorporated inside Lifetime Fitness.
Yeah, like IVs.
They'll have the cold
and
plunges, the IVs. They'll have different massage areas, which I think it's great. I mean, they're going there for their wellness upkeep. I think it's a great endeavor.
key though, apparently with the cold plunge, you have to do it prior to working out.
Okay.
You don't do it after a workout.
Pro tip, you heard it here, guys.
I just listen to podcasts, okay?
More so to like constrict everything and then release.
Well, apparently when you're working out and you're trying to build muscle, that inflammation you cause is what stimulates muscle growth. And if you do the cold plunge after, it defeats what you're trying to do with weightlifting. So you do the cold plunge before, that way you feel fantastic, curb your anxiety, then you do your workout, then sauna.
Release, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the scientific
Maybe
theory.
I'll try it.
Yeah.
You guys are
I don't know
talking me
too
into
much
it.
about this, but this sounds intriguing. I might have to reapproach this. We'll have to see. Last one is stimulating the vagus nerve to ease stress.
Tell me what you think about that, Sam.
Listen, have I put my hand up to my neck and kind of given me a little vagus massage? Maybe. Does it actually do anything? Listen. Physiologically, there is a little bit of validity to it, but I think people don't do it long enough, and they probably don't even know where the vagus nerve is, to be honest with you. So I think that a lot of people are probably doing it wrong. But is there ability for you to have some level of calming and decreasing of temporary stress? Yeah, of course. I think that your body is, when you're activating that nerve, you do calm it. You do kind of slow down the heart rate, slow down everything. So yeah, it makes sense. But I don't think that how this article says it's so easy to do. Most people, do you know where your vagus nerve is? Probably not.
I don't.
And so I think
when you said it, I was like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. So I mean, in theory, now
I haven't heard of that trend, but it's nothing that I'm interested in even
apparently
trying.
it's a thing, right? If you see people walking around, there it is. Now let's talk about kind of the negatives here. These trends, a lot of these influencers, celebrities, a lot of traction that's being gained because of them and talking about it. Do you think there's going to be negative consequences? Do you think it's going to cause bodily harm? Do you think it's going to cause long-term problems, cancers? Who knows? Like, what do you think about some of these trends that could get out of hand, and maybe it hasn't been researched? So what do we know the long-term implications are?
Yeah, so we didn't talk about this trend yet, but I'm not sure if it's on your list or not, but hyperbaric chambers, I think, is an up-and-coming trend as well.
It's on the list.
And there was just something in the news recently, I believe it was like a 5-year-old child that died in it.
Ooh,
so I think people have taken it too far as far as who's a good candidate for it and what an appropriate age to go into it.
Right.
So I think that there's definitely needs to be a lot more research before people kind of turn over this leaf to go into these new trends.
What is hyperbaric chamber? It's more for like healing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. It's great for healing. And the thing is, it's great when it's monitored and it's properly administered. And that's the thing, is that I think that this is becoming too commoditized. It's becoming too accessible. And a lot of places that don't know how to do these things are doing it. And that's what my fear is that if these are all done appropriately and then monitored appropriately, there's a lot of great benefits. But to your point, Alicia, there's not enough research for us to say it's safe, and there's no FDA trials and clinical trials. So I think that it definitely needs to be approached delicately, and it needs to be approached in an establishment that it's going to be safely administered. Otherwise, we're going to have traumatizing stories like
Absolutely. I definitely think that it needs to be in the correct owner's hands. I mean, we've always known the hyperbaric chambers to be in wound healing clinics, which I think that those are the doctors that should oversee it. But then again, it's no different than a dermatology office or varicose vein surgeries happening in a vascular surgeon office, but now med spas are doing it. So I think there's just trends that are more focused on a specialty that are now dabbling out to like, anybody can think they can do this.
Well, I think there's also a money aspect too, right, Mitch? Like, a lot of people are coming in and probably introducing these things into their business just to make a quick buck, and that's kind of what we have to be wary of. Yeah. What are your thoughts about, people just doing it to do it?
It's like we kind of talked about anxiety, right? You could just go for a walk, right? There's a lot of trends that I think people think they need is like a cheat code for everything, where it's like, okay, I'm going to wake up and then I'll do this, and then I'll do my next hack, and then my next cheat code, and then I can be successful today. And it's like, I don't think that's necessarily true.
Right.
Kind of more to your question was kind of like, hey, when should we do this stuff? How should we apply it? When should we recommend it for patients? When it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Like we have a client we worked with, great plastic surgeon, does hyperbaric post-op care. Makes sense. Does that make so much sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah,
yep.
Right. But then it's like,
still
here,
in our
let's
wheelhouse.
just do hyperbaric all the time. And then it's like, hey, you have anxiety because you're not doing hyperbaric. It's like, that doesn't make sense, right? I guess, does that kind of make where I'm
Absolutely.
getting
I think
at?
that you have a very valid point, is that these treatments are great, but also, to your point of stress, right? I think that these are all Band-Aids. They certainly help. Do they relieve stress completely? No. I think they temporarily help our body. They help temporarily decrease mental anxiety and temporarily help with inflammation. But if we go to the root cause and if we find a consistency, like going on walks and finding a more long-term solution, I'm more focused on that rather than, hey, these trends and these let me just go in here and do this hyperbaric tamer. Let me just go in here and jump in a cold pool and my life is going to change. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's good for like dosing, right? It's good for that quick fix, that good, feel. And it's better than, other stress relievers like drinking alcohol. I think that's much better than that. So, well, listen, I think that I would love to continue this sort of conversation to a little bit of a different angle. In terms of trends, there's this massive trend now about wearable fitness technology, wellness wearables. You got these Apple iWatches, you got these different sort of, Fitbits and all these different things that help track Aura rings that help track your sort of sleep cycles. And there's so many things now that you can wear and it tells you everything you need to know. And I have mixed feelings about this, about whether they're causing more harm with keeping people almost obsessive over their numbers and that causing anxiety, or whether it's actually helping people. I would love to open up the conversation on wearable fitness or wearable wellness devices and whether it's good, whether it's bad, or what are your thoughts?
I think it's a good opportunity for people to up their game when it comes to their wellness and being a little bit more competitive with themselves.
I think
it's no different than like putting a date on the calendar to say, hey, I'm going to go work out at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I think it's the same thing for commitment.
Keeps people accountable.
Exactly. I know when I used to wear the Fitbit back in the day, I would get very competitive with myself. And then it came over to my Apple Watch. I wanted to close my rings all the time. And some days that I didn't close my rings, I felt very defeated. So what I did, I set lower goals for myself so I could make sure that I achieved them. And then I tried to double my rings because then that was where my goal was originally supposed to be.
But when you weren't hitting your accomplishments, did that cause you to have anxiety or defeat or stress?
Absolutely, it did.
It could go any way.
No, it did. It would make me feel like maybe this is why I'm tired today because I didn't get enough exercise in. Or I gained a couple pounds over the last month, and that is contributed because I didn't meet my goals. If I met this, would I be where I am right now?
So it sounds like you kind of saw both sides of it.
I did.
You saw it as a motivator. You saw it as an accountability step for yourself, but you also kind of were like pressured to say, why didn't I do this? And maybe I gained weight because I didn't. And it almost kind of created some little bit of like insecurity, sort of anxiety behind it. So you kind of saw both sides of the coin.
I did.
Here.
And I'll add one additional thing to that, Sam, is that I felt very competitive because I started to join family members and then we would congratulate each other. We would keep each other motivated and mutually accountable.
Sure.
So then that's when I felt like I wasn't so determined to fail myself, but I didn't want to fail anybody else that I was like in this club with to make sure that we were all striving together.
Do you think that these trackers are maybe decreasing the amount of trust that people have with their physicians? Because the physician will be like, hey, you have high blood pressure or you have high heart rate. And then people are like, no, I don't, because my watch says I don't. And when in reality, the medical testing shows they do. Do you think that a lot of this may lead towards people having too much sort of influence? Because we don't know the accuracy of
I was going to say too much influence and too much trust in like a wearable device that they don't need to go to the doctor as often, or they neglect their own health care thinking that these concerns are not an issue because they are exercising. So it's normal resting heart rate, even though there's other contributing underlying factors traditionally.
Sure. Mitch, what are your thoughts about these sort of wearable technologies and whether they are causing harm by having too much data, or do you think they're helping people?
It is kind of tough. It's case by case. I think it's kind of to me, it's a moot point. Like I don't wear one, but I'm also not trying to like run a marathon, and this is just not my lifestyle, right? I don't think you need them. I think they're cool. Like if that's what you're into and you're like measuring heart rate and you want to get like super analytical in your performance in something, great. If it's something that makes you feel good because you're getting a reminder for it, I think it's good. Yeah. But I don't think people every day need to have. Personally, I just don't think you need to have that much anxiety about your sleep cycle.
Sure.
I think if you just go to bed at a reasonable time, wake up, you're probably good. Unless you're like having sleep apnea, maybe.
Right.
So I guess, see, now as I'm talking through it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, like now as I'm talking through it,
there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong answer. And I think I'll give you my opinion. I think that, I've always had an Apple Watch. And, I didn't really care so much about the fitness, even though there were times where, the competition aspect is nice. It it reminds you to do certain things. And it's just that little nudge to kind of give you a little bit of accomplishment and accountability. But I think my opinion on wearable technology really changed last year.
Okay.
You know, I gave my dad my Apple Watch. I gave my Apple Watch to him because, you know, he had some changes in his health and his heart. And the Apple Watch actually is what detected his AFib. And I'm one of those stories. And I am able to, on my phone, I'm able to actually look, it's kind of creepy, but I'm able to actually track his heart rate. I'm actually able to track his EKGs.
You're like, Dad, what's going on?
Yeah. So every day.
What were you doing 6 minutes ago?
Right. Every day. Well, it actually alerts me. If his heart rate goes high, it sends me a ping. It notifies me. So then I can call him and be like, you okay? Everything okay? But he actually had his AFib identified by Apple. So Apple, I appreciate you, not because you steal my money every single time for me buying an iPhone every year. Can't wait for the new one. But because you helped identify my dad's AFib. And, you know, if he wasn't wearing that watch, he wouldn't have no idea. It's not like he has heart monitor on him. And that's when I'm like, oh man, I understand. And I realize, hey, as we age, I think that every individual, if you have some sort of health history, if you are aging and you have some chronic diseases that are kind of becoming unmanageable, or if you have a family history of something, I think that's where wearable tech gives us an opportunity to have insight when in fact other people just don't. I mean, most people aren't checking their heart rate daily. Most people aren't checking their blood pressure. And so in the case of my dad, you know, he was able to identify his AFib. We took him in. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks, got an ablation. His AFib's done. But yet he still wears the watch just in case. And it gives us security, gives him security. Otherwise, how would we know? So my mindset shifted with wearable tech because I think that in these sort of use cases, I mean, it's hard to argue it not having an opportunity of advantage there. So I think it's, there's many ways to look at it.
Now you're making me want to get one of these, right?
Again, it's Christmas. Or his birthday. Mitch's birthday's coming up here in May.
I got to get you a watch.
I know, right? You know, it would be kind of cool if like a direct like primary care provider had that set up with like their patients
linked to their charts.
Well, actually,
do they do that?
You can do that now. So you can actually share in the health app with certain devices, or at least with Apple, I can tell you with the Apple Watch, you can actually have it shared with your medical provider. As long as they are synced with you or the EMR synced, they can see lifetime stats. Even if the heart is abnormal, it will send that over to the physician. So a lot of actually medical practice are equipped with monitoring and obtaining that data. So now they don't have to say, hey, what has your heart rate been for the past 2 months? And then the patient be like, I don't know, I didn't check it. Well, now the doctor can just log in and see all of that history because it's speaking to them in live time. So I think that gives us a little bit more insight on patients. So from like a clinical standpoint, it's actually quite intriguing to know, like, hey, I don't need to go based off of what the patient's saying, because the patient's going to be like, oh, I feel fine. Well, let's look at what your heart rate actually is for the past 90 days. And you can kind of have,
and that's better than just a snapshot from when like you walk into clinic,
right?
They check your blood pressure that second.
And it happens to be good.
Yeah. You're like, okay, well, you seem to be fine, sir. And then walks out.
Or the patients that are supposed to be following up at home and tracking their blood pressure or their heart rate or their respirations.
My dad used to do that.
And they go in every month, they give it to their doctor, and they're just fake numbers that they wrote down to make themselves look good because they don't want to identify that they have a problem.
Right.
Because that means medication. That means possible surgeries. So I think it could be scary for them as well.
I started as a moot point. Now I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's two different worlds. We're seeing it from the standpoint of like, hey, like, I don't really need it. I can motivate myself. But then as we age, we kind of maybe start to see the value, right? We start to see the value of, you know, as we start to develop these health conditions, if I can just wear a ring or put on a watch and it tells me everything I need to know and also identifies early things that I would have never even known, I start to see the value. I think I'm going to age with one of these because why not? If I have a little bit of a warning before something catastrophic happens, just like my dad had the warning of, hey, listen, your heart's not okay. And he had that warning because the watch. Yeah. I mean, hey, those are life-changing moments. So I think that, you know, us being our generation, we may not see the value. And that's why I said I didn't realize the value until I saw my dad go through it. And I'm like, wow, these things could be actually remarkable. Does it cause anxiety? I think that people, you know, maybe certainly there's this sort of digital anxiety, right? People are like looking at data, looking at numbers. They're so focused in the numbers. They're not focused on enjoying life. So I see both sides of the coin there.
So maybe you just like put it on and then don't think about it. And then maybe we just review once a week.
Yeah, wishful thinking, but yeah.
I remember being somewhere one time and someone was wearing their Apple Watch and they're like, I have to get the rest of my steps in. They literally paced in the back of the room for about 45 minutes. And it was honestly a little annoying.
Yeah.
But they're like, I have to get my steps in.
Right. You know, there's one thing that actually I've seen and respected a lot with big corporations that have thousands of employees. My father-in-law, actually, his company, he works for the government in Indiana, and his organization actually created an initiative. They gave all of these Fitbits to all their employees, and they created a challenge. And the challenge was that the person to get the most amount of steps each month gets a $100 gift card. So guess what that got all of the employees to do? Walk around. And at the end of the month, because I was like, what are you doing? You're walking so much more than usual. Oh, yeah, I got to get this $100 gift card. Yeah. And it made sense. It made perfect sense. I'm like, I like that. These massive corporations or organizations are promoting and actually basically monetarily incentivizing because guess what? A healthy employee is good for the company because less sick days, less days off. They're better workers. They're more motivated. They have a lot of that adrenaline going. That means they're going to perform better. Yep. Actually is beneficial for that corporation to incentivize and put a tracker on them essentially and motivate them. So I kind of like that model a little bit too.
Yeah, one of the community hospitals that I worked at, they put kind of a method like that into place where we all were able to track how much we were walking in our steps. And we raised money to be able to put a walking path around the hospital that was a little shy of a mile. So during our breaks or our lunch breaks, we would all go out and walk. And we'd start to see visitors that were coming in to see patients that were maybe there all day with them, just getting mental clarity, a breath of fresh air, going for a walk, and then coming back in with their loved ones. Everyone started using it. So it became like a trend. Right. But it was just so nice to be able to go out, get that fresh air, because you are stuck in the building all day. Yeah. And it came back. When I came back, I was more motivated to be able to work and continue on with my daily. And I didn't feel like I was going to work. I actually felt great, and I was able to have the break time for myself.
It's something that I think that we're gonna see more of. I think that there's a lot more technologies coming out on the horizon that allow us to actually track things. And
like implanted chips in the future or something.
What is it, Neuralink?
Yeah, the Neuralink,
Elon Musk is basically...
Yeah.
Elon, you're crazy, but you're cool. Let's go through the next and final topic. And Mitch, you're going to love this one. This one is how clinics are selling and the mistakes. They're selling treatments. They're not selling stories. And I know you're going to eat this topic up.
Let's hear it.
You know, clinics right now are so focused on, I'm going to sell Botox. I'm going to sell semaglutide or GLP-1s. I'm going to sell the dream of this device and this medication, but they're not selling the concern and addressing it, and they're not selling stories. Take us away with this topic. What are your thoughts and navigate this world for us?
Well, I mean, I could probably talk for like 10 hours on this. You know, the storytelling part is fun. Kind of the issue and like why the story part works, and not really talking about like, okay, you're medical, and when you take someone medical and then they go into self-pay, cash pay medicine, there's like this inherent feeling of like, oh, this is a transaction, right? I have to ask for cash. And the other part is people in medicine are really good at like fixing things. Like, okay, hey, you have a AFib, we have to ablate. Or, okay, you have wrinkles, here's Botox. And so what happens is like, that's kind of who they are. And so when the patient comes in, they're like, oh, you have wrinkles, here's RF microneedling. And it's like, it's not a big enough gap. There's not like enough to make me want to change. It's not the treatment that makes me want to buy. It's the transformation. What is my end result? What is my dream outcome? So it's like when we work with clients that have like, you know, the BTL Emsella for cough, sneeze, laugh, incontinence. What I tell providers, you're not treating incontinence. You're allowing your patient to be able to play with their kids again and work out and have confidence in their body and
quality of life.
Now that is a dream outcome. Isn't that more exciting, right? If I'm like, hey, do you have incontinence? Let me fix it. Right. It's kind of boring.
It is.
Right? And then the other mistake that they make is they start kind of doing tit for tat with other treatments out there. So they're like, oh, well, my friend did IPL. What are your thoughts on IPL? And they're like, well, we use this treatment and that's better. Or, oh, I saw this clinic has microneedling. How's your RF microneedling? And we're like, well, our RF microneedling is better because it does this. And we're in this like improvement world. Yeah. And so back to like telling stories is a really easy way to casually bring about a conversation that doesn't feel like a sales conversation. I'm kind of peppering in like credibility as I tell a story.
That makes it feel very authentic.
Yeah, like tell a story about like, let's say you're showing a device and you let's say Emsella, right? That's a great technology. If for those that don't know, it's kind of cool. It's like this chair you sit on, magnetic, rebuilds pelvic floor.
Fully dressed.
Yeah, clothes stay on, right? And it's a miracle treatment. And a better approach, instead of saying, hey, this fixes incontinence or, sexual dysfunction or pelvic pain, tell a story about why you bought it. Hey, we weren't going to bring this on. We were a little skeptical at first. It seemed too good to be true looking at Emsella. But when I saw the clinical evidence and I knew so many of my patients were doing like a bladder lift surgery and they didn't need to do it, and they were spending thousands on, co-pays and pad usage, and I just felt like I had to bring this on for my patients. And so that's why we have Emsella here. That is more credible than trying to sit and just blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Explain things, and it's just going to fly over your patient's head.
Telling stories is so important, and it builds that trust. Alicia, do you feel like telling stories, as Mitch is mentioning, increases patient trust and conversion rates?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like that, when I would run all my consultations, I would always have a story that is relatable to that client and what their concerns, what they were coming in with, and how I treated it with another patient that they, like I said, felt very relatable to. One of my Emsella stories, since we're on the case of the Emsella, a lady that would go on an annual trip or her family would go on an annual boat trip. She was never able to go because there was not a bathroom on the boat, and they were not able to, she didn't want to get off in the water. She'd feel uncomfortable. She's like, I literally have to go to the bathroom every 30 minutes. Like, my family thinks that's so annoying. We can't even go on road trips because of me. And I was able to bring back that quality of life and help her with her concern that she was able to go back out on the boat. She was able to go on those family road trips, go back out on the back of the boat and tube with her, young grandkids. That was really reassuring to her. And she trusted the process, and knowing that the value that we were asking for her to pay is the results would be achievable for that. And then just continuing it with her maintenance and, touch-ups as needed. But it wasn't going to require much from her other than their 28 minutes of appointments twice a week for 3 weeks, which was fantastic.
Yeah,
so I think it's very important to have
selling
storytelling.
the story is so much easier than selling the treatment, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if you sell the treatment, it's going to go over their head, and they're going to be like, okay, I don't get it. This is a lot of medicine. This is too clinical. But if we sell the outcome and the result, and we address their concern, that's so much easier. And it's so much easier because the biggest thing is, I suck at selling, right?
Yeah.
A lot of providers are like, I hate selling. I don't like asking for money. You don't need to. Just be an educator. Tell the story.
Like Mitch says, diagnose and prescribe still, just as if you were in your traditional medicine field.
Right.
You're still diagnosing the patient and you're prescribing a treatment, whether you're asking for cash or not.
You know what I just thought of?
What?
You told me a story about your dad, and I was against the watch.
Yep.
And then you told that story, and I was like, wow, I should. And you didn't explain how the watch worked or what exactly it did, but you told that story. I'm like, I'm kind of interested in this now. And you really didn't explain anything now I think about it. But
he's not even profiting off.
Yeah, you just told a story and then sold me. I didn't even put that together.
Listen, was it named Tim Cook? We gotta have a referral system.
Yeah.
I'm selling Apple left and right. I mean, come on. I gotta be a salesperson for Apple. But no, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think that people make connections with relatability, and not even relatability, but when they see the emotion from you and they see, wow, you help treat these other patients, they see that sort of emotion come out of you. People, I mean, think about when we sit around, and go to dinner and go to cocktails, and you don't sit there and just like say transactional things. You're like, hey, how's your day? Tell me the story. Hey, I have a funny story.
Conversational.
Yeah, it's conversational. Yeah. That's what builds trust with your peers and your friends and your colleagues. I mean, that's no different with our patients. Is we have to treat them the same way. If they are able to trust you and see that you're emotional and hear your stories, that in itself will be enough for them to move forward. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of probably, get frustrated.
I was going to say, I'm going to also add to that just real quickly, Sam, is that I think if it's very important for each one of the clinics, for the team members to try everything that they're doing, because when it comes straight from me and my experience, that's much easier for the patients to relate. Like, okay, you're standing right here. These are your results. I see that this is actually you in this photo. It's not something that's AI generated online or some random story that they don't even know if it's true. I think that's why it's so important for every one of the team members to experience everything that clinics do, so they have their own story to tell.
Yeah, would you have something?
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, and for those listening, like the first time I learned about storytelling, and I never thought about it before, right? You just kind of learn stories as you grow up. I was like 6 months doing my, first medical sales job. And I'm going into my meetings and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm Mitch. This is the company I work for. We're the coolest. We're the best. We're in like 80 countries. And every time it was like, they wanted nothing. I'm like, man, this job's hard. You know, my wife's like, hey, how are sales? I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna pay the bills. I was like, we're in a bad spot, right? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use this credit card for groceries. And I'm like 6 months in, I only had one device sell. And it was because I walked in. She goes, oh, I've been wanting to see you guys. I've been wanting to buy. I was like, oh, thank God, I can write my bills, right? And my director, you know, kind of pulled me in. He goes, hey, like, what's going on? Like, you seem great. I like you. You're cool. Like, people really enjoy your company. You've had success in sales before. What's going on? And I told him, I was like, I don't know. So I went through my approach, and he goes, that's bad. Like, that's really bad. He goes, just tell him why you took the job. I'm like, what? Like, he's like, yeah, go in, tell him why you took the job. So I walk in to my next meeting. I'm like, there's no way. Like, and this is when I worked at BTL, right? And so I go in, and the provider's like, who are you? And I was like, I'm Mitch. I work with BTL. Have you heard of us? And she goes, no. And I'm like, really? Like, you haven't heard of BTL? Like, she was doing cash pay medicine already. And then she's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't really know who they were either. She goes, no. I'm like, I was in mortgage last year. She goes, mortgage? I'm like, yeah, I never thought I'd be sitting here. It's kind of funny if you have a second. She goes, sure. I go, my best friend calls me and he's like, hey, I can get you in, you know, medical sales. And I go, okay, what are we selling? Pacemakers, knee replacements? He's like, no, it's this ab machine. I'm like, an ab machine? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, right? I go, what else? And he's like, well, we have this chair for incontinence, you know. I don't even know what that is. Like consonant, like grammatical. And he's like, no, it's like cough, sneeze, laugh. I go, who are we selling to? And he goes, aesthetics, you know, med spa, derm, wellness clinics. I'm like, Ryan, I don't even wash my face. So I tell my wife, I go, Ryan wants me to look at this job. She goes, there's no way. We just bought a house. We have our kid. And I'm telling this to the doctor. She's cracking up. And I go, yeah. So I fly down for this interview and we go into a clinic just like yours. We, you know, bring in technology and the doctor's like, there's no way this works. I'm wearing a full suit and tie. It's like 110 degrees out in Dallas, Texas. I'm sweating. And she goes, what do you know? I go, I don't even know why I'm here right now. And they bring it in. The rep's super chatty. And he's like, just try it. So she sits down on the Kegel chair, MCella. And I watch this woman's jaw just like drop. And I'm like, what just happened? All of a sudden, she's like, I need this, signing docs. I'm like, wait, you're telling me I just get people to sit in a magic chair?
That's why demos are so important during the consultations.
So I'm going, this is the greatest job ever saw. Also not that easy. And I called my wife. I go, I think we're moving to Dallas. And, you know, it ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. And, you know, I told that story to the provider, right? Which, because it led me here.
Yeah,
but,
that's right.
So I told that to the provider and she was like, so tell me more about this chair. And I go, there's no way. I was like, and then all of a sudden she brought on the technology and I'm like, what? And then that month, I believe I hit close to like nine products sold, you know, with all together. And obviously we have a team and work together, but the prior 6 I had 1. And so my point to people is I told the truth. I told exactly what happened. It was relatable. It was engaging.
It was a story.
And it was a story. And I didn't think about it. I'm like, why do I talk any other way? And I'm like, I just want to tell stories all the time. And it was so effective. And so that's what I'm getting at with like when we work with our clients. Hey, like, what is the story of your clinic? Who are you? Why are we here? What are your values? Why did you bring this on?
Yep.
You know, what about your patients? Who are they? What are their outcomes?
Yeah. What are your goals?
Yeah.
All these different things. It's so important to tell stories. And I think that, I mean, think about what we've done just today. We've told stories and we've had an amazing conversation. We've taught each other some things. And I think that that's what it's very important. If you're a clinic owner, don't fear sales. Don't fear the aspect of converting people to a consultation. Be you, tell stories, be curious, listen, tell, and engage in conversations. Don't try to be a car salesman because this industry is intimate. This industry has vulnerability. And the more comfortable you can make it by having conversations, just like the one we're having, the better the results are going to be. I appreciate you guys so much for being on today.
Thank you.
Lots of fun.
We're going to continue the conversation. I want to hear about your stories and tell me. I want to hear about the challenges you're facing. I want to hear about your opinions on all the different wellness trends that we were talking about, cold plunging, hyperbaric chambers, high protein diets, whatever it is that you think is trending. I want to hear about it. Tell your story. Hopefully, Apple, you're listening to my dad's story because I think it's worth listening to. And I appreciate you guys walking me through your stories. And I'll look forward to hearing more about you. Make sure you hit subscribe so we can continue talking about stories together and me and you writing our stories into the future and making this industry better so we can provide better patient care, but also we can provide better revenue and income and success for all of our clinics. I appreciate you. Hit that subscribe. Signing off for now. I look forward to talking to you real soon. Take care, guys.